So today we have a very eminent personality from the pure sciences with us, and it's my honor to introduce sir. It's Professor Sourav Pal. He is also currently a Director of IISER Kolkata. Very welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you, Pratap.
So if I introduce about the sir has cracked JEE Advance in the very establishment of the IIT SAM during 1970s, and after that sir has also it's not on record, but sir has been selected for the PhD in TIFR, and then sir dropped out from there and joined the Calcutta University. We will know the reason about it. And after that sir has joined the very old and very one of the premier laboratories of India, National Chemical Laboratory. And after that sir has been doing postdoc and joined our sir has also been former professor at IIT Bombay, then joined IISER Kolkata as a director. So sir, we would like to know from the beginning when you started your career in pure sciences, IIT JEE was the exam. It is still a very popular exam in our country. So mostly people aim for the IITs and for engineering sciences. So even after scoring a much good rank, why you have chosen pure sciences as the career?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. I must first say that I was born in Ranchi, just to keep things simple, but I was brought up in a town called Asansol, which is I think now the second most populated town in West Bengal.
Yes.
This is in the border. Those who do not know Asansol, this is in the border of Jharkhand.
Yes.
And so I grew up with a largely diverse population. I must say that it's an industrial town, so our upbringing in the school itself was quite different. There are people whom you saw from different hues of life, and even in those days, I remember in the 60s, we could see Jaideep Mukherjee, Premjit Lal coming to Asansol, playing lawn tennis. So I think, those days, I hope many of the old timers will remember these names. Ramanathan Krishnan, Premjit Lal, Jaideep Mukherjee. So my interest in school was a lot focused on sports, apart from, of course, formal learning. I used to follow several sports, and until today that passion has continued in my life. I think that really helped me to look at population from different regions and grow up in a somewhat different social environment in the 60s, mainly in the 60s and early 70s when I did the schooling. And 60s, those days was very, very different, from today.
Exactly.
The technology was very different. We didn't even have a television. So we used to follow everything from radio. But I think somehow those days, I still reminisce that those were very happy days when I was following everything, everything I was following from the different channels of radio, BBC, All India Radio, and we used to get news from all over despite staying in Asansol. And the fact that there was no other channel, no social media, nothing. From there, of course, it was very difficult to know things. Yes. Today, students have too much knowledge, I think. Information, at least. I would not say knowledge, but information. So they know where to go. We didn't know. First, somehow I heard about IITs. I don't know exactly. I don't remember how I heard of IITs. Who told me? The IITs were relatively younger, and I heard there is a joint entrance examination. And I did not know there were coaching classes and so on. In fact, till I actually went to IIT, I did not know about the coaching classes. I came to know about Agarwal, Brilliant, after I joined IIT. So I just went with my studies in class 11. That time it was a class 11. It was not 12, not 10 plus 2. And then I, cleared. So that was, of course, what happened. That I cleared IIT joint entrance examination.
Totally based on self-study.
Totally based on self-reading and whatever I studied in school. I must say at that time our school education was very good.
Okay.
The Asansol, I studied in Ramakrishna Mission School in Asansol, which was under the West Bengal Higher Secondary Board, and the standard of education was very high. I must say that. I hope it is still the same. or even better. But the standard was certainly very high. So we learned a lot of subjects with great depth. And I must owe it to my teachers. At this stage, I must say that my teachers really helped in Ramakrishna Mission School. So without much of the external thing, maybe little bit of private tuitions and so on in certain subjects, I could clear joint entrance examination quite well, that I was getting all the subjects, including IIT Kanpur Electrical Engineering, IIT Kharagpur Electronics Telecommunication, and whatever, Bombay Chemical Engineering. I still remember these are the checkered subjects.
Yeah, exactly.
IIT Delhi was textile, IIT Madras was mechanical. There were 5 IITs at that time.
Electrical was very popular in that
In IIT Kanpur.
Yeah.
At those days there was no computer science.
Yeah.
I must say that. So I was actually had a lot of pressure in joining electrical engineering at IIT Kanpur, simply because my elder brother was already doing electrical engineering at IIT Kanpur. But that eventually, my father was also an electrical engineer. So that was one of the reasons we thought there were too many electrical engineering. And I somehow got a little bit detached that I should do something different. So in the school, in fact, I wanted to be a literator. I wanted to write poems, write essays, novels and so on, at that time only in Bengali. But eventually I could not do that. I mean, I thought that for a career, at least I did not take up that, though I privately have kept writing. So I had a varied interest. Then I thought of, IAS as a career. I thought of film director. I must tell you that as a career, because our time we were very much influenced not by the Bengali literature alone, but also by Satyajit Ray, producing memorable films all across 60s. So those who know Satyajit Ray's career in 1960s, he has just directed a tremendous amount of good films. So I was also impressed by that. But eventually I took to science, which is the most standard thing of doing. But I wanted to be different. So I thought I would do pure science. So that was one of the major reasons. And because of my love for such subjects, as I told you, the pure science carried some amount of romance in my mind. The pure science, I can express my mind, I can do something very fundamental. And that really drove me to the pure science. Although my counselor, I remember, I was counselor at IIT Kharagpur. My counselor was not happy that I am not taking engineering.
Yeah.
So they were almost pressurizing me, but eventually I took up chemistry. That's also, there's a story why chemistry.
Yeah.
But important thing is that I was that time an NSTS scholar, National Science Talent Search Scholar. And those days, if you take pure science, you could get fellows or scholarship from NCL.
Is it same as NTSE?
Yeah, it is similar, except that NTSE doesn't have that scholarship thing on pure science. That time it was scholarship used to be given only to pure science people. So now like Inspire is giving and so on, very similar thing. So I took up pure science because that was one of the major motivations that I am also going to get scholarship. In fact, I must tell you that till my PhD, I was NSTS scholar. Even in PhD, I got scholarship from National Science Talent Research. So that's how I went to IIT Kanpur with integrated masters in chemistry. Why chemistry? I cannot explain, because I was stronger in physics and maths. But for some reason I thought because I am strong in physics and maths, I should do chemistry. I was pretty weak in biology, I must confess that. So biology was out of question. So then I thought in chemistry, I can at least bring the knowledge of physics and maths.
Exactly.
Rather than going into physics and physics, competing with physicists, or mathematics competing with mathematics. So that's what most people do. But actually what my thinking was at that time, is what is people are talking today of interdisciplinary science. That you are good in physics, maths, you go to some other subject. You bringing the knowledge of that discipline into another discipline. So I started doing that. I started thinking in that line in 1972 when I joined IIT Kanpur in the Department of Chemistry. And the chemistry department, I must say, why chemistry? The chemistry department of IIT Kanpur was a fantastic department. I had teachers like Bharat Ratna, Professor C.N.R. Rao, who was my teacher. He took our Chem 101, Govardhan Mehta, Professor Govardhan Mehta to organic chemistry, Professor Animesh Chakraborty later to inorganic chemistry. And then we had series of good people, Professor P.T. Narasimhan, I must say, who encouraged me to take up quantum chemistry. in my career, Professor P.T. Narasimhan, Professor M.V. George, Professor D. Balasubramanian, all of them became who's who of chemistry at different time. Professor Pinaki Gupta with whom I did project, also did a lot of inspiration for me, and so on. Professor Ranganathan. It's very hard to name, but in fact, all of them were giants in chemistry. I had already heard of that from Asansol. I must say, in those days, without Mr. Google. So I could still hear the names. Somehow the names come, by word of mouth. And that was the reason also I joined.
They were doing great work at that time, so
they were doing fantastic work at that time. So, but somehow I don't know how the message came. Today it is very hard for me to tell. How did the message come in those days? But by word of mouth, somehow it came.
So sir, the next question will be as you talk about the pure sciences and the interdisciplinary approach. So how pure sciences is a very important for a nation, especially which is in a developing state like our country.
Yeah. I think so. While of course there is a lot of emphasis today on innovation and making products, making process innovation, making product innovation.
But people relate it to the engineering.
That is actually not correct. It is not the engineering people who are only who have this mandate to do this. It is the science people who can also do this. So today it is innovation of science, technology and innovation, STI. So the government has also set up this. So I think the science innovation is very, very important. But innovation of high science, innovation using high science, which means you require first a fundamental high science. So fundamental discoveries will always remain important. And I think that will never go away. So that is what I will say. But then our problem is very often that we don't take this fundamental discovery, the outcome of the fundamental research to the translation.
Yes.
So we don't translate. So that is where the problem is, which very seamlessly occurs in many other countries. And I think we have to think how to do that. We need to probably collaborate much more, where we can bring in engineers, device people who understand the science, have different skills that are required to make that science translate. So that spirit of collaboration is something that we require in the country in a bigger way than today. So you cannot do everything on your own. You can't do fundamental discovery, translation. It's very, very hard for a single person. I mean, maybe there are exceptional people, but single person is normally very hard. So you have to collaborate, and that somehow has to pick up in our country.
Exactly. So for a student who is considering their career in science, what should be the motivation while taking pure sciences?
Yeah, so that's what I said. Pure science is very important.
Yeah.
So the major motivation is that without good pure science, you will not do what I call deep innovation.
Okay.
So deep innovation is actually not is different from jugaad.
Yeah.
So deep innovation is really doing an innovation of high science. So pure science is at the back end very, very important. So most students will take pure science because they are interested. But even the pure science institutions will allow them for translation. So just like in IISER Kolkata, we have a RISE Foundation, where if you have good ideas, you can actually start either in a company mode, I mean for the students and particularly I'm saying for the company mode or in some other mode, engage yourself in translation. Entrepreneurship. So that is very, very important that even the pure science institutions will allow you. So there is no reason not to join the pure science institutions, thinking that it's only pure science and no translation. So translation would be a part of pure science in some way. So I think both together have to go hand in hand. Okay. So I believe there is a great reason for learning pure science, otherwise, of course, you will miss the fun of learning science. And that fun is in the fundamental science.
Exactly, because the scope of something new to innovate lies in the pure science, I believe. Engineering has more applied kind of.
Well, I wouldn't say that exactly. Engineering also today they call engineering science.
Yes.
So science in a very general sense, you must say. In fact, I don't know whether you should say pure science, impure science. These words in themselves I don't like. I would only say there is a science and application of science. This is what exactly Pashut have said, I think. So that's it. And science can be in physical science, chemical science, engineering science, medical science, even medical science.
Yes.
There is a new science. So So whenever there is a new discovery, you can call it pure science. I have no problem. But the normal thinking of pure science is physics, chemistry, maths, biology, geology, etc. I think that mindset we have to go away. We have to enlarge this definition. It can be in engineering science, it can be in medical science, because today science has become interdisciplinary. Of course, if you say what are the skills that are required, in many cases the skills will come from physics or chemistry or biology or geology, whatever, mathematics. But I think the customization to a specific environment, to a specific field will lead to different domains of fundamental science. And I think, and then there are applications. So an engineering person may do science, engineering science, may also do applications.
Yeah, they go hand in hand actually.
Yeah, so but thinking of engineering as only an application is probably not right in today's context.
Partial, you can say. Yeah. Okay. So like as you like after completion of your MS from IIT Kanpur, like you could have easily went to some good institutions in abroad.
Yeah. So
Why
that is a very different and very personal question.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go to USA more of personal reasons. I was very shy at that time.
Okay.
And I was somehow scared to go abroad. I mean, not just because it is financially expensive at that point of time, but also I had a scare of whether I can live in the US or in the Europe, basically abroad. So I wanted to be, so I was more of a homesick person, you can say. So this is really very personal. But within India, I am ready to travel anywhere because I studied in Kanpur.
Yeah.
So I decided to go to Mumbai. What is Mumbai now? That was Bombay at that time, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. And I was supposed to do what actually was called thin films that time, which would have been nanomaterials. But somehow the instruments were coming from US, even in TIFR those days, instruments are not available, particularly measurement of particle size at that scale. So I had to be imported, and it took long time that my interest shifted to quantum mechanics. So I started reading Fritzo Capra, the Tao of Physics, and Feynman's lectures on physics. So my interest was always on physics, so I actually became more of quantum mechanics person, but then I was chemistry, so I suddenly applied to chemistry, but there's a lot to do, and I met a very young quantum chemist at IIT Bombay at that time, Debashish Mukherjee, who many people know, and he was moving to Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science. So he told me to join him at the IISER. So that was the reason I didn't come to IISER and fish for joining. I actually wanted to join him. He was at IIT Bombay at that time. So I met him in a conference, in a workshop at IIT Bombay, and then I kind of went and decided to join him, and he said you can join at IIT Bombay.
Yeah. So you basically followed the expertise of the person actually.
Yeah.
Instead of going with the name of the institutions, which like TIFR has a very good name that time.
Right. So I wanted to go because of my passion of taking that field.
Yeah. So like as you told, your interest is shifted to quantum chemistry. Then you have also left the institution and went to some other institution. So how you so strongly concluded that the quantum chemistry is the field?
Yeah, this is the passion that I always tell young students that you must follow. You have to feel it. I mean, I think your success will depend on this kind of feeling that what is your subject, what do you like, and this cannot be dictated by your friends or parents or anybody, because it's your feeling. You have to choose your subject, and I think that will really determine how successful you are, whether you are able to feel. So yeah, I mean that was a risk. Everybody told me it's a risk because as an IIT Kanpur student, I should have gone abroad. First of all, I did not take engineering. Then I did not go abroad. All mistakes I made. If you see my common consent, and then within chemistry, I came to a subject which was very less popular at that time, or even today, not so popular, quantum chemistry, where getting jobs would be very, very difficult. So if you see, everything that I did was counterintuitive, and I came from a bigger institution to a smaller institution. I mean, I don't agree with this big and small, but that was the perception at that time, that you don't come from TIFR to IISER. But I did that. So, and here I am. So I don't want to judge myself, but you make several mistakes.
But multiple mistakes lead to a minus
possibly
plus kind of thing.
Yeah, possibly.
So as you talk about like friends and society, so like what do you think about like how society and friends or our peers influence our decision in career making?
Yeah, they do, and that is sometimes dangerous. I was telling
Yes.
because it lets you not feel your own feelings or what is a good career. Because far often we are driven by society and peers,
Yes.
and that could be very dangerous. So yeah, I mean they do, and I'm saying that is not necessarily good. When you need an input, you should go to the society and the peers and get the input. But if you are blindly driven by that, then it can be dangerous.
Yes, yeah. So now we will come to like the main topic of our discussion, like IISERs. So, like, could you elaborate on these institutions, like why government has separately created them while we have already IITs are there, NITs are there, IISCs also there? Then what is the need of these seven?
Yeah, so I was involved a little bit in the beginning because when we came to know that Pune will have IISER, it was more or less decided that the IISER Pune will come in the land of NCL,
Yes.
CSIR. So in fact later on we had signed a MOU with the ministry, between the ministries, that IISER Pune will come in our land. So I got involved because I love teaching from the beginning.
Yes.
Even when I was at NCL, I used to teach in Pune University before IISER Pune came. So I was teaching all the time. So because of being a teaching education, I kind of got involved. So I know a little bit of background. And of course, I must say that NCL played a very important role in setting up IISER Pune, that the then director, Dr. Sivaram, CSIR Director General, Dr. Mashelkar. Dr. Mashelkar played a very important role along with Dr. Sivaram in letting IISER Pune come. But what I came to know that the real, and in fact, some of them were the architects of writing the IISER mandate. So with Professor C.N.R. Rao. Of course, Professor C.N.R. Rao was the one who kind of proposed it in the cabinet exactly in this format. In a way, it was there before. And there are a lot of other people like Professor Govind Saru, Professor Vide, who also
Govind
played.
sir from like which book? Yeah.
Govind Saru who was in Pune.
Okay.
So they also played very, very important role in the beginning, but then it was kind of took a form later in the IISER form. So I think the name, the whole idea was that there was a lot of technology institutions
Yes.
where science was being done, like IITs. But they felt that many times science becomes not the primary department.
Supporting department.
And in fact, some IITs were treating science as a service department. I'm very unhappy to say this, but it's a fact. And then when science did their own thing, of course, they become more and more prominent. But I think to give more prominence to fundamental science, and when I say fundamental science, it does not preclude applications of the fundamental science. It does not exclude, I should say, it does not exclude innovations or applications of fundamental science. So that it was felt that the fundamental science is very, very important, and we must have fundamental science in full form, where the institute name will be focused on fundamental science.
Okay.
So that is why this name IISER came. And of course, even in the naming meeting or naming ceremony, I was also present. I remember that. There was a lot of discussion about whether there should be a comma between science and education or not. And then after a lot of discussion, this comma was dropped. It's actually science education and science research. That is the reason comma is dropped.
Okay.
It is not science, education and research. The research is about science.
Yeah.
Education is about science. So you don't have to put a comma. So there was a lot of, I remember 1 hour discussion on the table about the naming. They had also started with the National Institute, then it became Indian Institute. So a lot happened. I don't want to go into all the details.
So NIISER was already there, I guess.
Yeah, NIISER came a little bit, I think around the same time, little bit later. I think a little bit later. I don't exactly
Okay,
know.
little bit later.
Little bit, I mean. So anyway, IISER came at that time, and with the growth of with the focus on fundamental science, but more importantly on fundamental interdisciplinary science, which actually combines physics, chemistry, biology, art science, mathematics, and any other kind of science. Of course, today humanities is also very, very important with NEP. So people started to having departments of humanities. IISER Bhopal, in fact, went for
Engineering science.
engineering science as well. So I think we also have now a computational science as a department. We're giving minor in data and computational science. I think that whole idea of science is of course going to keep on expanding.
Yes.
Okay, the idea of science, but that was the reason IISERs were formed mainly.
So like as we are talking about interdisciplinary sciences, so like this kind of like approach is still, I feel like it is a new to general people. So like could you put some emphasis of like what do we mean by interdisciplinary sciences here?
Yeah, so I mean when you say physics, chemistry, maths, you have certain ideas in the school, but if you go for research, you will see that a research requires a solution to a problem. And the solution to the problem does not come from only one discipline. So for example, in physics, you talk of physics of materials, where they look at properties, measurement, but that materials has to be synthesized, material structure has to be understood, which can go into a chemistry. So so it's true for also molecules, atoms and so on, and many other techniques in physics and chemistry are also identical. So synthesis, of course, is very special for chemistry, but I'm saying many other things are very typical, that it exists in many fields. And today, computational science, mathematics and biology are kind of overarching everywhere. So today, chemistry is being done for biology. So this idea of interdisciplinary science essentially means chemistry is not just synthesizing something in the lab. You have to synthesize something which works in biology. So then you must understand biology, how it will work. So that's the idea, that today people have to learn a lot of different subjects in a way, not that they have to be master in every subject, but in a way that they can do interdisciplinary research. So that they can go and read, they can discuss. So that's what I said first in the beginning, that this kind of research requires a lot of collaboration, the spirit of collaboration, and I hope that will happen in our country more and more. I see that we are a little bit weak in collaborating to really get to a big science compared to many other countries.
So could you suggest some ways to improve the existing?
Yeah, the collaboration, I mean, it's of course, it's also based on a human trust. So I think I'm very sure that the human trust will be required for collaboration. That if people are all suspecting each other, then of course the spirit of collaboration itself is gone. And of course, as an administrators, I think they have to make collaboration easy. They have to make it facile. This should not come in the way of promotion, assessments, or whatever. Recruitment, I think collaboration should be respected. One should realize that the science is more important than the person who is creating the science very often.
Yes.
Okay, the person who is creating becomes a role model, but the fact that they are very important is because of the science that they created.
Exactly.
And that science requires collaboration. So that is very important to realize.
So sir, like if a student who is currently completed their 12th is deciding about the career, so generally for the student himself or for their parents and other, they consider a placement as a big factor about the economic aspect of
yes, of course.
Yeah. So like in the context of IISERs, like the direct placement implies direct placement implies no stability in that.
Okay, so I think this is a very difficult question, but this is a question that has not just today. This is a question which existed long back.
No.
So when you do masters in science, when we did also 5-year integrated masters, it's like BSMS almost in a different form. So what are the job prospects? I mean, if you start thinking, we took a risk. That's why people go for professional courses, right?
Yes.
Because they think there are more jobs. But I think today, because people are realizing that the value of pure science, I think more and more, whatever you call it, pure science or fundamental science, I don't like to call this word pure science, as I told you, but the value of science itself, more and more employers, including industries, are looking at the science skill set. So they want to recruit people with a good science skill set such that can be used for innovation or doing something good. So I think a lot of jobs are opening up today. But indeed, after masters, BSMS, most people would probably like to go for PhD, because that makes them more stable. And of course, IISER students mostly go abroad, which is a very nice thing, because I think it's a good training to get PhD abroad before they come back. So I think there is no problem with that, but I think people have to also realize that there are many alternative careers, and you don't have to do PhD. So there are many other things in which you can excel. For example, the incubation that I told, startup entrepreneurship is certainly a very, very important career. You can also have an alternative science career like science communication, for example, to the people who common people who can understand science, and be a kind of science spirit communicator, so that more and more people take up science. You can explain science in simple languages to others. So that could be an alternative career. You can of course get a job in industry directly, even with masters, after BSMS. But you have to realize that there will be some limitations in your growth. But those who want, they can actually go directly to industry. And of course you can teach in various other institutions, you can always teach. So I think it also depends on the individual. How much individual feel that can go for PhD, then whatever it requires should be an academician. See, our training is that you always want to become an academician. We don't think of any alternative career. Exactly. So I will really request students to look at alternative career and not just, those who can be a good academician should become. But it is not necessary that everybody has to become, because you have to remember doing PhD, then possibly postdoctoral research, becoming an academician is a long road. So those who have that mentality and good should only take up. But there are other careers which, as I just said, there are many other careers which you should be open. Remember, whatever you do, you should do with a passion. Whatever you do, try to do very good. And every work is respected. Every type of work is respected.
Correct. Even if you do it with a passion, like every field has a best career in that field.
So that is very, very important.
So sir, like you have been to multiple institutions throughout your journey in the pure sciences. So like you have been to one of the best institution of India. Then you also went abroad also, IIT Bombay you have also gone. So if we compare the environment there and environment here at IISER, what is the conditions?
So the environment in a lab like Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, in the National Chemical Lab, and in academic institutions like IIT and IISER, invariably would be different. Because there the focus is more of doing research, and many times research which is not just basic research but also a mission driven research where the government wants certain programs to be done. Whereas in IISER it is more of free spirits, I would say. Though at the same time the faculties themselves should realize that how much of this free spirit should be channelized to do something good for the society. So I think that should come from within. But many of the CSR labs, it's a mandate to do something for the society. So in that sense, the environment is different. And it is per se not academic institution in the sense that it doesn't have undergraduate studies. So it has only PhD. And PhD of course has its coursework and all that, but it's only in the limited sense. So in that sense, the environment is bound to be different. But human beings are the same, you have to understand. Human beings are same, human problems are same. So as a director, I believe many of the problems are very common, because directors very often solve human problems, in fact. But in terms of focus, quite clearly they're different from IITs and IISER. IITs are of course IIT Bombay that I went was a much bigger scale. So scale is much bigger, and there is technology. Science was a different footing. Here it is more of science, so that difference is also there between science and technology, between IIT and IISER. But broadly speaking, both of them have a similar structure in education, so both of them come under Ministry of Education. CSIR is a bit different. But as I said, finally, it's about doing research, so that is same. Whether you do in CSIR, quality research is very, very important, or in IIT or in IISER. And many of the human relations, problems of problem of doing collaborative research is also there everywhere. Though in CSIR there is often a mandate from the top that you have to do this, that helps in collaborative research. But otherwise the problems are very similar, that there has to be a trust among the people. And I would say for the young people it is very important to realize that wherever you are, whatever you are doing, you need patience. You need hard work, you need patience, you need to study. Okay, at the level, and when you do research, research is not very easy, so you can always have a failure in research, but the failures are, truly speaking, pillars of success when you do research.
Yes. So nowadays, like you're noticing that trend kind of going on, like as you know, like lakhs of students are giving this exam, JEE exam. So what they are doing is like they are particularly aimed towards a particular institutions, just being influenced by the environment around them. So now suppose if they don't get that institution, then they are like taking decisions like dropping a full year for that institution. So I think like what is your take on this as your?
I would not, you see, they are very comfortable and confident rather, that by taking a year drop they will get their own institution next year.
Yes.
It is fine. But you are not confident. You may not still get second year. So the year will be dropped. I mean, unless the institutions differ a lot, I would say you should not drop a year in general.
Yes.
It's not a very good idea for the psyche. But I mean, unless it's a very big difference. The problem today is that when we had IIT JEE, there were 5 IITs. All those 5 IITs were on reasonable par. Kharagpur, Kanpur, Delhi, Bombay, Madras, whatever. But today that is not the case, I think. That is not perceived that way.
Yeah.
I really do not can't comment. But it is perceived that there are still 6 or 7 or 8 IITs which are good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you consider Guwahati, Banaras, Roorkee, and then the rest, there is a second tier IIT, then there is a third generation IITs. So this is why this problem has come. So although they call it IIT JEE, it is not an examination across uniform quality institutions.
Yes.
And this is the problem. At least this is a perception. But whatever I am saying, it may be wrong, because you really have to go to those IITs and see that how good are they. But the perception from outside is that the 5 or 6 IITs are very good, maybe 8 as I said, but not all of them in the same standard. And that is the reason this year drop issue comes up. But if you get Bombay and don't get Delhi, I don't think you should drop. That is for sure.
Yes, exactly.
You want Delhi IIT and you don't get, you got in Bombay, Madras, you should not drop. Unless there are very, very personal issues, which I can't comment.
I think like they should select on the basis of their subject, branch and subject.
Right. So if you get the same branch in another IIT,
I guess,
which are all top-rated IITs, I think it doesn't matter. Finally, you have to do on your own.
So, sir, as you are currently Director of IISER Kolkata, so could you state a few features which make IISER Kolkata unique in its own sense?
I would say, the location aside of IISER Kolkata, which is a little challenging, I should say, and that's the tougher part. I would say, apart from that, its talents among the people who are here, faculty and students, is very good. They are very well talented. We get very good students, I must say that, from our joint admission.
Yes.
IISER Kolkata, IISER Pune. In fact, I have been following this, and most of the years, IISER Kolkata and Pune admission close first. So then others close. So we get very good students. There is no question about it. It's about channelizing the students. We also have very good faculties who do good research. My only appeal to the faculties is that probably they should take as much interest in mentoring as the students as progressing their own careers.
Yes.
Of course, careers progression also depends on students. So it is a very symbiotic relationship. But I think both should go hand in hand, and it's very important that the faculties do that in the proper spirit. Publication wise, of course, it's always like that in every institution. Some faculties publish more than the others, but then each of them is also working in different fields. So I really don't want to comment. It's ideally the quality has to be judged by their peers. And I think by the peer judgment, I would say we are doing well. If I look at indicators like NIRF and THE, etc., also we are doing reasonably good. For an institution which has come up in our time, which is really like 2006, if you compare, I think our rankings are quite high, except IIT Hyderabad and IISER Pune, and maybe 1 or 2 more. we are right there in the top, I would say. So that makes it, at least in the NIRF ranking, in most of the years. So that pleases me that we are on the right track, despite some of the challenges, as I said. And I believe, personally, I believe location is a big challenge. I mean, this is my personal belief, because of the fact that you need an environment where people can also enjoy. And unfortunately, that is a challenge, that we are very far away from the Kolkata. And many times I said Kolkata, that what Kolkata is a misnomer, I think, in some sense.
Yes.
So many people, of course, call it IISER Kalyani, as you know.
Yes.
And so I think that's, but other than that, IISER Kolkata is doing very well, I would say.
Even the name of AIMS, they have kept AIMS Kalyani.
So I also must say that this cluster of educational institutions that are coming up around is going to be enormously helpful to IISER Kolkata as well. So IISER Kolkata, AIMS, which is very next door, AIMS Kalyani, then Macau, which is also very close. Then of course you have NIBMG, Biomedical Genomics Institution, which is close, IIIT, Kalyani, again, it's all about 20 minutes, 25 minutes drive, IIIT Kalyani, and of course Kalyani University, should not forget. Then Bidhan Chandra Krishi Vidyalaya, which is a very old institution for Agri University. So BCKV, then the Fisheries Institution. So there are so many institutions which are around here that I believe, I think there's a River Research Institute.
I saw that.
River Research Institute. So I think there are so many institutions which are central, state government, that there is a lot that can happen in the cluster. I think there is a great chance of innovation, and we have been appealing that since the RISE has come up in IISER Kolkata, all those people who have an idea can actually start their program.
So can a student take it up?
Any student can take up. There is a procedure in government. If you require funding, the government gives you grant. So they have to apply. They have to set up a company mode. They can get privately funded, or they can get from government grant and start their ideas. And this is a very important part, I'm saying, in the Kalyani cluster. Many places where I am in a chemistry, you require to go from a research scale to a commercial scale, which requires really a pilot plant kind of thing. Now, every institution is very hard to build a pilot plant. So in fact, I request the government to think of opening a pilot plant in this sector, which can be multifunctional. So depending on whatever is required, they can customize the pilot plant. It's not easy. There is a capex on that. But I think if that happens, then every institution can use the pilot plant scale to go to the commercial scale. Because you can't go from lab to commercial in one jump.
The translation
the transition is the pilot plant. So I think for innovation, that will become a great thing, and I would really like to suggest to the government to consider this, which can be at a location, very nice location, because it requires a lot of land, and I think that could be used by all the institutions in this region. So I would think that would really help. Otherwise, so whatever in our location, we have to use that to our advantage. And now there is a big advantage coming up, particularly the AIMS coming up so close. It's really going to change things.
It has changed actually the look of the entire place.
Yes, so the biomedical applications also we can do very effortlessly because the AIMS is there.
We can collaborate.
And of course we already had the JNM, Jawaharlal Nehru Medical Hospital out in Kalyani, but with AIMS coming up, I think there's a lot of hope in this region. So this could be a Kalyani cluster of science and innovation. But I would still request that the innovation part should be seen, because I think while a lot of innovation is now taking place in Eastern Zone, it is still a little bit weak. And this is something where Kalyani cluster can really contribute.
Exactly. So there is a big transition in science and technology from the last 60-70 years. So how do you see in the future of 60-70 years?
So this is a very difficult question, because I can't see the crystal ball and predict. There are a lot of crystal ball gazers.
But it's still seeing the
predict. It's very difficult to say what will happen, because the way science is changing so quickly, rapidly. That people say that, okay, you can make a human being, for example. Who knows? That people can create a brain and make a human being. I mean, that would be a very radical change.
Heart, people have already created heart.
Created heart. And in terms of fundamental science, nobody expected, let's say, quantum mechanics to come. That something can be so much probabilistic, I have to start with. Of course, there is a quantitative way to predict that probability. But what I'm trying to say that these are things which nobody could predict.
Yes.
So these are discontinuous science, and I'm sure 50, 60, 100 years, another such game-changing science will come. I call this a game-changing science. The genomics is one that is already happening. That with the help of genomics in biology, a lot of game-changing science can be made. And there, data science, computational science can also play a very important role. So it's very hard to predict, but I think I can only say the way things have happened in last 100 or 200 years, there is a huge expectations. And you see 200 years back our life, and today, in fact, technology, if you see technology changes that I have seen in my lifetime of 60 years or 55, 60 years, they're amazing. We had no television, as I said, when I was in school. There was hardly any telephone. The telephone was through the, by trunk call. The STD came in my own eyes. What is called STD? That was also not there. And forget about mobile phone and all that thing. So then the TV came, then it kind of went on a limbo. It was a black and white TV, then the color TV came. Then 1990s or late 80s, internet came. And that really changed, like www, the World Wide Web. That came. We saw the kind of changes continuously happening and how it has revolutionized our life. And then finally, of course, internet became a household thing. You have now every house almost having a Wi-Fi. I'm saying every house, of course, can have a Wi-Fi today. And then you have the mobile phone. I think that really completely changed. The television with digital, so many channels, you can now kind of plug in and see anything that is happening all over the world. And so many different apps coming up. The mobile apps, the laptop app, the computer itself. There is no idea of computer. In the 1970s, when I went to IIT Kanpur, I saw an IBM computer, a very old generation, which used to take room of this size and practically doing nothing by today's standards. The kind of speed it was. So I have seen that computer change. As this technology has changed. Today you are talking of cloud computing.
Yes.
Not even just normal server. You are computing in the cloud, which I could never imagine. What is a cloud computing? I had tough time to understand. Being in a computational chemistry subject, I had a tough time in understanding what is cloud computing. But today people are doing cloud computing, and so many different types of computers. So computer revolution itself is very important. Now people are talking of green computing. That's going to be a very next generation thing. If you ask me, green computing would be computing where there is e-waste will not be there.
Okay.
The waste that you do, computer waste, will not be there. Energy saving. How do you do a lot of computation with minimum energy? So that will also require faster processors, it will require algorithm, it will require a technology change, I think.
Exactly.
So if you want to say many science, many things will happen. Certain things which have not happened, like nitrogen to ammonia, I always tell, it is still the Haber process. I hope that will change. So chemists will do fantastic work. It's a Nobel Prize winning work. And I must say that I learned this from, I heard this from Dr. Mashelkar, that there are certain times, there are science where Lakshmi and Saraswati converge. So this is one such science, where the people get a patent, you become very rich, and you will also get Nobel Prize, I believe. So, there are such tremendous work that is possible. CO2 reduction, for example. Today we are talking of CO2 sequestration. In fact, we are also working on that problem, and dinitrogen activation. So these are problems in chemistry, closer to my heart. But I'm just saying, science itself will throw in several challenges. Biology, it will be just fantastic, I think. The way biology is expanding, that will really bring up fantastic challenges and fantastic new thinking. But many of the new thinkings will also come because of the interdisciplinary.
Yes.
It may also come because of interdiscipline.
It broadens the boundaries of our thinking.
So in a way, it is like data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning. Nobody would think of that. And today with AI and ML, you are tracked. There are dangers, of course.
Yeah.
Because AI and ML is tracking you all the time. So your preferences, what you are doing, everything is being tracked. But the science, we could not imagine that time.
Exactly.
That this has happened. So the kind of thing that the algorithm change in the computer, all that we could not imagine. So it has happened. So I think, there's a lot to look forward to.
So sir, one final question is that it's a hot topic of discussion going on, regarding if you look at the history of our country, specific India, we see the Indian civilization was advanced in science and technology much before we see such texts, such construction, such sites where it is related to archaeology and history that supports the fact that Indian civilization was advanced in science. And there was much of a connect with it, spiritual aspect is also there. So, what is your take on this?
It's difficult for me to say because I know that because some of the history is not very clear to me. Number one. Number two, that I know, of course, there are a lot of good science in Ayurveda.
Spirituality and science.
So zero, for example, was an Indian discovery.
Yes.
Ayurveda, a lot of natural products that you see today existed in India. A lot of knowledge which was there probably is lost in some sense.
Yes.
Whether that knowledge is evolved from the spirituality, I cannot comment, but it is quite likely. What you are saying is likely to be true. But certainly there is a lot of knowledge which existed in the ancient India, which somehow got lost. I think I remember even in very early age, I don't remember which year, there was some hint of algorithm in India, which came before the actual algorithm, which came from the Middle East or whatever. So it was there in a different language. Today you cannot understand the language. So language is different. So I think I'm pretty sure Indian science was very advanced.
Because if we look at one film was released on the Ramanujan scientist, biography was there. So in that it is mentioned they have quoted it that Ramanujan sir was studying in his remote area, nothing was there, just his book and candles and all those things. He was a very devotee, Pandit we call kind of, and then he used to write the formulas. So that aspect, he doesn't have the proof of any formula. No proof was there, but the clear formulas was there, and he wrote complete 2 big books of such kind of form. So still a lot of people believe in this aspect, the body which we consider spiritual or we call them God is actually an advanced civilization which is much advanced than us in science and technology.
Possible. I really can't comment. It is quite
there is a full movie matrix on that.
So many things which are in fiction eventually come true. They come true. So I think that is what the science is. So that's good to know.
Yes.
Very good.
So, at the end, for message for our viewers, which are mainly for 15 to 25 age group.
I would say that you choose your study well. First of all, it's very important. But along with study, do your extracurricular things. So go out, play, socialize. That is something that is not happening today. People think that only this is the only thing. I think I would very strongly say that at a young age, you should have a more all-round experience of life.
So taking too much stress on
so don't be stressed. Your every career is good. That is what I'm trying to say from the beginning. You don't have to be an academic career or something like that. So don't take stress. Whatever you do, if you do in a distressed manner, you will do better. So anything that you want to do, but you are stressed, you can't do better. So today, because of whatever happens, social pressure, the mental stress has increased. So that is why physical exercise, playing sports is extremely important. Because physical exercise automatically distresses you. And I see many people are not doing that. I'm really surprised today. And going out, meeting people. Chatting in internet, this is not the best way to release your pressure. You should actually kind of meet people, talk to them. I think that is a very important thing. And of course, I should say that with the corona, the pressure has increased.
Yes.
And I agree because people are homebound. But as we are getting out of the corona, and I think corona itself, I must say, is a wonderful sign that when we are discussing science, to understand the virus, how do we mitigate it, and the vaccine that India played a very important role.
Yes.
And I think all these are great examples of great science. And I think it has thrown new challenges when you are talking of new sciences. So what I'm saying, but corona has also thrown this stress on all of us. But as we are getting out of it, I think we should become normal as soon as possible. I hope the world will become normal. But of course, it is necessary care that you should take. So I think, that is what I will say. And when you go for the career, do not worry. Whatever really you are good at, accept that. And any career is good, I would again say. And of course, if you are doing science, like in IISER, remember, be confident. Don't say you are apologetic, I did not get engineering, hence I am coming to science. That's a very wrong attitude. So when you are coming to science, be bold, be firm, and you should know while doing science, you can contribute to engineering, you can contribute to medical.
Exactly. Yeah.
They all are science. So it's not that you have missed engineering and medical. So that is why I call it engineering science, art science, environment science, medical science, everything is science. So as a science student, you should be able to contribute to anything.
I say it like we have even dived deeper into the engineering and medical.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say, so your main thing should be to look for new ideas.
Yes.
As well as possible, but any career that you take up as a result or outside that is good. So just try to excel in that career and be happy. That is the most important thing. You will be happy if you have a lot of other extracurricular interests, activities. So happiness quotient is missing in the young people. I believe we were very happy, although we had nothing. We had no television also.
Sure.
No telephone. We are very happy. So as you can see, the gadgets don't make people happy.
Actually,
sometimes I feel they make them more unhappy.
Yes, because they can see like they are doing this, then they feel like
this pressure to compete and all that. I think that's also true. True.
So thank you so much, sir, for giving us the time.
Thank you very much for these pleasant interactions. And we are welcome and good luck to all young students.
Yes, the forms will be releasing soon for IISER.
Well, whatever career you take, IISER or no IISER, whatever career you take, I think best wishes to all of you. And I think it's very important that you excel, you do well, be happy, and most importantly at the end, I must say, be a good human being.
Yes.
I think that is the very important adage in English we used to read, live and let live. L-I-V, live and let live. And that's very, very important. Be a good Samaritan, help people, be a good human being. And I think value of that is a lot, I tell you.
Exactly.
And we have sometimes forgotten. So the human aspects are very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Told you what to chase, told you how to run the race.